Hello and welcome to the Supercharge Marketing Podcast. I'm Mike, the CEO of Lumen 5, an AI video creator made by marketers for marketers.
And I'm Pius, head of growth at Lumen 5. This podcast is a rally call for those who believe in the power of brand, storytelling, and thought leadership.
We feature insights and best practices from forward-thinking marketers and B2B leaders, daring you to stand out in the rapidly evolving world around us.
Are you ready to supercharge your marketing? Hi, everybody. I'm very excited for today's episode of Supercharge Marketing. I'm joined by two very special guests. I'm joined by Christopher Bowal and Michael Cheng, two of the three co-founders of Lumen 5, an AI video creator that's been using machine learning and AI since 2016 to help anybody make agency-style videos in like 10 minutes or less. In this episode, we're very excited to dive into all things AI and what this recent shift in AI means to the market and the world, how it impacts B2B marketers, and how marketers can tame and use it to create better experiences in telling their brand story. Our guest today, as I'd mentioned, is Chris, co-founder of Needle in 2012, co-founder of Snipply in 2014, a company that was later successfully acquired, and co-founder of Lumen 5 in 2016, and is the chief product officer here. And Mike, also a string of successful businesses in your tenure, founding Witty Cookie in 2011 and Snipply in 2014, along with Chris, and now Lumen 5, together with Nigel, our third co-founder who heads up our engineering team. I got to say, I was a big fan of Snipply's when I was at Hootsuite, and we used your tool a lot. So when I found out you'd also started Lumen 5, I was very excited about this product and this company. Chris, maybe we'll start off with you by telling us just a little bit about yourself and how you both met and why you decided to start building these great products together.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Pius. Excited to be here. I met Mike after university doing a program, and we met online. The program had a structured kind of start where they were trying to filter and interview candidates, and they got everybody to talk on this forum, talk about ideas. And Mike and I were number one and number two on the most active people on that platform. So they paired the two of us up, and we've been running and trying to make things happen ever since.
Great. I love that story every time. And Mike, maybe we'll jump in a little bit about yourself and an introduction to yourself as well.
Yeah, I come from a multimedia background, so I love design, I love product. I studied video back when I went to university. And so Lumen 5 as a broad topic is very near and dear to my heart. And I met Chris, as Chris mentioned, on the online forum part of this program. And at the time, I remember very clearly thinking, wow, whoever this Chris guy is, because we hadn't met in person, this is like one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And fast forward now, we've been working together for almost a decade, still the smartest guy I've ever met. And when him and I met, really lots of businesses came about because I come from an ideas and design background and I love solving problems, and Chris comes from a technical background, so he can actually solve problems, whereas I just conceptually come up with problems to solve. And when we join forces, we've been able to solve really fascinating industry problems together.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the dynamic that you guys have is awesome and unbelievable. And I think that's where a lot of the brilliance comes from is that ability to play off each other. Well, jumping into it now. If you're in tech, unless you've been in an isolation bunker somewhere, you've undoubtedly heard of OpenAI. And with their tool, ChatGPT, they're very much opened up the commercialization of AI to many other companies and products now who are jumping into the AI bandwagon and incorporating into their tech. Some are doing it well, some not so much yet, but I think the general market is very much trying to figure it out right now. You two, however, have been incorporating AI and machine learning into your tools and processes for a few years now. So I'm really curious to hear from your thoughts. And Chris, I'll start with you first. From a product perspective, where have you seen AI come from in the past? Where do you think it's evolved to, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, definitely. AI is a classic kind of roller coaster technology. It has been around for a long time, been around for 50, 60 years. And every decade or so, it gets a lot of attention. There's some big leaps forward. And then kind of the rest of the world adapts and kind of incorporates a lot of those technologies. And then it just goes back to kind of being more of a research project. Yeah, we've been at Lumen 5, we've been using AI since the very beginning. One of the main reasons we started Lumen 5 to really help people make videos who traditionally wouldn't be able to make videos was because there was a lot of interesting AI technology that had been developed around the turn of 2010, 2011, a lot of new technology in the world of deep learning, which is a kind of a part of AI, was coming up, and it was really good at certain things. It was really good at understanding what was in pictures. It was really good at understanding text, generating text. There were a lot of different applications that came up out of it, and we were really interested in what we could use for that for video creation. And we did a lot of it, and a lot of it came into the kind of mechanical pieces of video creation. So where we've used that technology so far has been really around automating a lot of the kind of fine details that people have about kind of what's the timing, what kind of timing should we be doing, how should cropping work, what should the media be selected as. So a lot of the decisions that you have to make while you're making a video requires a lot of work, requires a lot of effort, and we can automate that using the tech. For this new wave, ChatGPT, which is built on an underlying technology called large language models, LLMs, that is this kind of whole new wave of generative AI, where the previous AI systems were mostly good at analyzing content and giving you information about it. This new generative AI wave has been better at creating content itself, creating text, creating images. And so it's been really interesting. It's obviously been able to create a lot of different pieces. And we believe it has a lot of impact on kind of the future of video creation as an industry.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you talk about, I guess, the data driven and kind of the outcomes and piece. And when we look at AI and this evolution, a lot of it isn't new. To your point, it's been in research phase for a while, but recently it's been brought into commercialization. And when we look at tech intelligence, the evolution from originally business intelligence to artificial intelligence now, it's really taking all of the information that's out there and spitting out data, right? But in the past, it was data-driven data that was given to humans to make data-driven decisions. But now AI has kind of taken it one step further to data-driven outcomes, where it kind of creates that end product for you. We're seeing right now, really, right, with the hottest program language is English right now. You don't really need to learn the software's language to query or create anymore. It's learned ours. How do you see this flipping of the script as it applies to SaaS or tech tools of the future? And how are you incorporating this into your own product now at Lumen 5?
Yeah. It obviously, the new technology and the idea of using natural language and the computers being able to better understand natural language definitely tears down a lot of barriers. You see this in a lot of new tools using things like natural language inputs, prompt-based inputs, to make it much more approachable for people. People don't need to understand all the technical details as much as you would. But also, and this is really relevant to the video creation side, is it can actually work with things that traditionally have been very human areas, and computers haven't been able to help with a lot. So coming up with ideas, helping you rephrase things, write things, draw things, those kinds of skills were traditionally very creative and very kind of human only. AI hasn't gotten to a point where it can do that completely on its own. It's very much kind of a partnership right now where people with the technology can like work together to build stuff. But it does mean that people can do things a lot faster and can make things that are probably higher quality than they could do just on their own.
I love that you use the word partnership, and maybe I'll ask Mike this question next. Is when you look at how it's changed business and marketers, and specifically as a lot of our audience is primarily marketers, how do you see this partnership between AI and marketers playing into how people do business in the future?
I think there's a lot of promise and potential for sure. And as Chris alluded to, AI isn't anything new. It's been around for decades, but it's certainly a progression of evolution over time. One thing that's really interesting, particularly with computer languages in general, is if you're familiar with binary, zeros and ones, and computers think in binary. And back in the day, if you want to communicate with a computer, you have to learn binary. You have to code in that level of abstraction. And then over time, programming languages became closer to English. If you think of something like Python, you think of command lines that you might have heard of, like print line. And those are English words. And so over time, we're actually getting closer and closer to being able to communicate with a computer using words that start to be more and more like English. And I think the more recent revolution in AI, one that's led by OpenAI and then large language models that are happening now, is it's closer to English than it's ever been. And every single time we get closer to being able to communicate with computers using our own natural language, the more possibilities we unlock. Take, for example, when I work with Chris, we use English. We use natural language to work with the people, our coworkers and colleagues. And as AI gets closer to natural language, it actually unlocks the potential for us to interact with AI more like coworkers and colleagues than ever before. So, take for example, if you had to learn a programming language, you have to create a very explicit set of instructions with a set of anticipated outcomes. And that's how we've historically worked with computers. But with large language models, we can now use much more abstract language and say, hey, can you help me brainstorm a few ideas on my next blog post? And AI, generative AI, can help you generate some topics, and you can create a flow where it's conversational. You say to your generative AI companion, oh, great, I like the second topic. Can you create a first draft for this? And then you might edit the draft. And there's this back and forth iteration, which is something that is in theory possible before, but unless you were a programming wizard that spent years learning these programming languages, it's incredibly difficult to do. By bringing computers closer to natural language, we unlock the ability for more people to be able to interface with computers and lean on their expertise. And computers are really good at lots of things. And I love that we kind of position this in the position of a partnership. Is yes, computers are good at lots of things, like they can process lots of information all at once, they have access to a lot of knowledge, but humans also have our own unique strengths and weaknesses, at least for now. Humans bring a lot of creativity and soul and context of what they're trying to achieve. And when you combine the two, when you can actually share with the machine the context, the strategy, the intentions behind your campaigns, you can then collaborate through these iterative cycles to create something that's better than what either of you individually could have created without each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when we look at the partnership between tool sets and humans, we really can create something that one or the other couldn't create themselves and whatnot. Where do you see this changing the skill sets or requirements, I guess, for future marketers? And what are the skills that are necessary to be successful in this world of tomorrow?
I
Mike?
think the skills that are necessary are going to move upwards more strategically. And that's been true for all of technological developments. We used to do a lot of manual labor, which was eventually automated through machinery. And this is the same thing that's happening in the world of knowledge work, where not only, let's say as a marketer, not only do you have to think strategically, you also have to be very hands-on, writing the actual content, doing the actual research. And now what we're seeing is that with the support of generative AI, the next generation of marketers can focus their skills on thinking more strategically, planning out the channels, planning out the goals, planning out the methodologies we're going to use to measure success and how the impact of each endeavor is going to tie back to our business objectives, and leaning on AI to do a lot of the manual labor that has historically been part of marketing, such as writing blog posts, writing the first drafts, writing press releases, writing SEO strategies, writing documentation. A lot of those things, AI can get you 80 or even 90% of the way there. And so the marketers of tomorrow are more like the managers of today, like the marketing managers of today, where the skills you'll need is one of having a good eye for quality, being able to perform quality assurance on the work that AI does, not too dissimilar to the marketing managers of today, where you're doing quality assurance on your junior marketers or your intern who just started in their career. And so being able to have an eye for quality, being able to provide good feedback, like any marketing managers of today needs to do in order to help their team grow, that skill is going to be more relevant than ever. Can you give good feedback to your AI companions so that they can create better work for you? And then last but not least, it's the strategic side is you can tell your AI companion to write you blog posts, you can write video scripts that you can put up on YouTube, but something has to drive the strategy. What does this all mean? How do these all messages and positioning tie back to an overall strategy? And that's something that generative AI isn't going to do for you. It's there to help you manually to automate many of the manual tasks, which allow you to save time and think more strategically. But the marketers of tomorrow need to get really good at thinking strategically.
Very good point. And right now, I mean, we speak a lot on how AI is going to evolve our market space, evolve the necessary skills that marketers in general and anybody else who is in content creation as well, and leveling up those skills in order to use AI to complete the jobs, and maybe looking at things from a different lens. And nothing will ever be the same again, very much so. It's very much a one-sided door that we've traveled across now. from a market perspective, in being in the AI field and kind of machine learning field for a while, we do see some positivity and negativity as well in terms of running a business. Where do you think some of the larger risks have been with AI and in usage of AI, and where do you think that's going to change? And I'll throw this question to Chris.
Yeah, that's a great question. AI is definitely one of those two-sided pieces where it provides a lot of skills, like Mike said, can automate a lot, can really shift you into kind of an editor or a manager type role, but also has a lot of concerns because you're losing a little bit of the direct kind of tangible impact on that. And so there's a lot of concerns about it kind of running wild or doing things that you're not expecting, which is a very valid concern. So at a high level, one of the biggest challenges with it is that this new wave of AI is simply too creative, and whereas in the past it was not able to really write content, generate images, any of those kinds of things, right now it can do a great job of it, and it can do it too good of a job where what it's creating isn't actually true, isn't factual, or doesn't actually meet what your requirements are. So if you're trying to create a campaign, you're trying to talk about your brand story, it might be making up things or creating things that are not completely wrong but not completely accurate as well. And so a big part of the space and the evolution over the next little while will be, how do you create the right guardrails? How can you give the right inputs to the system to make sure that what it's generating is useful, is accurate, and making sure that you can do less and less checking all the time to make sure that everything it's giving you is correct. That's definitely a risk for teams adopting it, and is one of the things that we've spent a lot of time thinking about because we've been using AI in similar ways at Lumen 5. And so creating those brand guardrails, creating a system where the output is kind of guaranteed to be within certain constraints, is something that we've spent a lot of effort on and have quite a bit of experience with. The other big challenges, there are a couple other challenges related to that. One of them is that the content that you'll create will be very generic. So it's similar to if you just ask ChatGPT to give you a video script, it's a little bit similar, like someone going and reading a bunch of articles and then giving you kind of a combined version of that as an output. And so it is very easy to create content, but it's also very easy to create very generic, kind of like low value content. And so a lot of those immediate uses of the technology will be not personalized, won't stand out in the market. And as there's a wave of content that gets produced through these systems, what will really set you apart will be things that are unique, data and insights that you can share that really relate to your audience. And GPT can help you come up with ideas for that, but it's not going to be able to do all of that for you. And so there's a trap of just relying on it to kind of take over your whole strategy, which will give you pretty poor results.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You gave a really good example there for guardrails and whatnot within the tool set itself, and looking at de-risking and keeping people within the functions of what they're trying to do within the product. Now, when we look at the two ways, we can also help this out with process, right? In terms of what marketers need to do to get that deeper content, that non-commodity content. Mike, you talk about this quite a bit in terms of how marketers can use AI to create that unique content. Maybe share a little bit about your thoughts on this.
Absolutely. I think a very common question that we're hearing nowadays is companies, marketing leaders going, I don't want to fall behind. How can we incorporate AI into our business? And I actually think that is perhaps the wrong question to ask. And I often associate AI with this raw potential or raw energy. And as we all know, humanity is best known as tool makers. We make tools to make sense and leverage energies. And so to ask, how do I incorporate AI into a business? It's similar to asking, how do I incorporate fire into our business? Or how do I incorporate technology or electricity into the business? In its raw forms, yes, those things pose risks, obviously. Fire, electricity, they're powerful forces. But what has always helped us make sense of raw potential are leaning on tool makers to create tools for specialized usage. And electricity, when properly built into tools, can be your microwave, can be your laundry machine, can be your light bulb. And I think that's the correct question to ask. Is it's not so much how do we incorporate AI into our business, it's what kind of AI assisted tools are going to best help us solve our problems. And in that sense, it's actually a very familiar realm. I don't think marketing leaders need to think so differently like like they've never thought before. The best application of AI is to focus on what are the actual needs of your business. So going back to the more specific example of video, the problem that you deal with on your business doesn't change, which is, as a marketing leader, I need to produce more content. I need them to be more engaging so I can reach more potential customers and prospects. And through that lens, you're looking for, well, what kind of tools can help me achieve that? What kind of AI assisted tool can help me increase efficiency, increase effectiveness, create videos that are higher quality? And so one way to look at it is what do we think are the most manual labor intensive part of that process, or expensive or time consuming? If you're currently leaning heavily on contractors and agencies, that's an opportunity to evaluate, well, are there tools out there that can help us automate without losing quality? And I think that's the important thing when it comes to evolution of technology is with the new generation of generative AI, there's a real possibility to achieve very high quality results while drastically reducing the time or labor involved. And that's something that we've seen firsthand through our experience working on Lumen 5, is just that the ability to bring something like video in-house can have a big impact, because video is something that's traditionally very difficult for the average person to do. People go to school for 4 years to learn how to become a professional video editor. But with the help of some of the tech that we've built, with the tech that is becoming increasingly common and available, we can automate parts of that. We can deconstruct and reverse engineer what happens in a professional video editor's minds, build it into algorithms, build it into prompts and rules to allow the average person to be able to create engaging video content without any experience whatsoever. And going back to the de-risking conversation, I think tools are how you de-risk AI. AI is a raw form of potential. Tools inherently are adaptations of an energy source that serves a very specific purpose. So guardrails are almost implied in that. So going back to some of the things that we've learned in what we do, is brand guidelines and brand guardrails are a great place to start. In platforms like Lumen 5, where we built brand guardrails, it tells the AI to operate within a specific avenue. And what you get is something that is de-risked inherently because of the constraints built into the system. And that's why using tools is the best way to de-risk businesses, as opposed to just thinking about AI in general outside of the context of tools.
Yeah, you both bring up really good points. When we look at especially B2B enterprises, a lot of companies are very much in the stage of trying to find out how AI can work for their company. But there's obviously a lot of risk involved when we're looking at giant corporations who have been around for a very long time. They have a brand to protect, they have process to protect. And incorporating a new tool is never easy in an old organization, but it's very much come to a point where you have to get more done with less. And AI is a perfect way to help companies do that with smaller marketing teams and smaller budgets and smaller resources and whatnot, taking away a lot of that heavy lifting in the creation process and being able to focus more on the output and what that benefit actually comes from this content that's being built. Has AI gone beyond automation in a lot of ways and come into this new world of creation? And a last question I have for you both really is looking at the next 5 years. I think it's somewhat clear where AI is going to be and going to go in terms of all the product and SaaS tools out there and companies trying to figure out. But looking beyond in the 10, 15, 20 years from now, where do you both think AI is taking the B2B world, but also taking SaaS and technology? I'll throw this question to Chris first.
Yeah, that's a great question. The interesting thing about AI is, and historically has been, that something seems like a big challenge. It seems like this is what true AI will look like. And then computers are able to do it. There's some advancements that becomes pretty commonplace. And suddenly it doesn't seem as impressive anymore. And there's been a lot of evolutions of this over time. And so I think right at the beginning, when you're seeing this new wave of pieces, there's a lot of interesting questions of, hey, is this a whole new generation? Is this going to really transform kind of the way that we work and the way that things happen? Or is this going to be maybe more like voice recognition, which is used in a lot of pieces, but hasn't kind of fundamentally changed how people communicate or talk? It's just more of like a minor piece. And I think there's still a lot of questions about this. A lot of AI development happens in research labs, happens at universities or big corporations. And you only get glimpses of the advancements every couple of years. And so there's a lot of questions of, what's coming up next. And there's a lot of optimism, but then there's also a lot of realism that there's a good chance that this isn't going to dramatically change from what is currently capable in the next little bit. So I do think that the next wave of pieces are going to be a lot of applications of these new technologies, of large language models, of similar technologies. They have been used really well right now. And what most people have exposure to is through kind of chat bot interfaces. And I'm sure that will continue to evolve and we'll see a lot more of those in use. But there's a lot of other applications of how they can make a lot of the kind of mundane pieces that people are doing day to day much better and change the interaction with that. What I'm probably the most excited about is that I think it does change the playing field of what people think is possible or what people think technology is capable of doing. And so I think there's going to be a couple of generations of technology that's going to have to happen before we start seeing computers kind of doing a lot of the creative work. But what we can start to see is some of those creative pieces where computers can generate some of the ideas. They can do some of the assistance, and you can really see them, in this partnership type model. And I think that will start to evolve, and you'll really see them more in companions of working alongside it, and a little bit less of just using a computer as a calculator or a kind of communication device, and more of something that you're working with. And I think that will trickle down into many different tools and really change the way that people interact with devices.
Mike, how about you?
I think with this generation of generative AI, we're crossing the chasm between automation and creation, and it's really exciting. Automation, in my mind, assumes that there's something that you can do, that if you give time and effort, manual labor, you can do it as a person. And automation allows you to automate those tasks that you were previously able to do, but you just don't want to, or you don't have the time. Generation is fascinating in that AI starts to do something you can't do. And I think that's the fascinating thing and why there's so much excitement about it right now. I think it's perhaps best experienced in something like a diffusion model, like DALL-E, where it's text to artwork. And so if you have an idea in your mind, like a rabbit dancing in the magical forests, the fact that AI can create an artistic rendition of your vision and we've read headlines of AI art or AI winning art competitions. That's something that the original author might not have been able to do. And so it's going beyond automation into creation. And I think that's really fascinating. And the role of AI users and marketers of tomorrow is to be this great mentor. How do you guide the AI to create the results and outcome that you actually want? And I think it's a really exciting time. And in a sense, what we do at Lumen 5 and why I'm excited about this topic is video is one of those things where there's a mechanical side of it, of how do you click the right buttons to make a video do a certain thing, but there's a creative aspect of it. There's a whole field of knowledge of what makes for good video storytelling, composition, lighting, audio quality. All of that stuff is a combination of both technical skills but also creative skills. And what we're seeing in some of the work that we're doing at Lumen 5 is being able to guide the user, not just making it easy for them to overcome the technical challenges, but using AI to guide them on the creative side of helping them structure good scene compositions, of helping them with the pacing of storytelling so that the user can focus on the story they want to tell and not the mechanics of how to tell that story. And I think that's just one specific example of how our tool in the world of video storytelling is really useful. And we're going to see that level of specificity. Experts across all these different use cases create tools in all sorts of use cases, all the way from writing to maybe filing your taxes or accounting or even medical applications. And so there's going to be specialized tools for all of these different use cases that we're looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I'm really hearing is that AI, along with a lot of the different technology and SaaS tools out there, can really make experts out of non-experts and bring to the forefront a lot of the creativity that might have been locked inside, but just needed that little extra push to bring to the forefront and whatnot. That's amazing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris. It's so great to hear your perspectives on this topic, and we're going to continue to share relevant and timely stories and experiences as this evolves. It's an exciting time for sure. Hey, listeners, we always want to keep our episodes short and impactful, and we hope you found value in what you heard today. And that's really our goal, is to connect you with the industry leaders, with the expertise to share so we can all grow together. As always, keep making purposeful content in this B2B world, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Supercharge Marketing, a podcast by Lumen 5. If you like this episode, hit subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your podcast, or leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube.
If video is not already part of your marketing content strategy, it's not too late to start. With Lumen 5, you can create eye-catching videos using our AI-powered video creator without the need for any design or video editing experience. Come check us out today at lumen5.com to supercharge your video strategy, or follow us on LinkedIn at Lumen5 for updates and resources.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.